open ko, ang script natin, call to order. How do you call to order? Nakalimutan ko na. Paano mag-call to order? Briefing.
Hearing na po sir tayo kasi meron ng book. Okay. The budget
the DICT. Okay. Yun na yung call to order natin, di ba?
Iba bang
Prayer lang ako.
pag-open?
Acknowledgement. I would like to acknowledge the secretary.
Kasi hindi naman na tayo mag-open.
The secretary, sabi ko lang, I would like to acknowledge the secretary. But the secretariat will acknowledge the DICT, the members of the DICT family present.
Okay. So, no need
Merong present physically and on Zoom. Kasi meron yung NPC wala dito. Nasa Zoom siya. Zoom, hindi ko.
Sabihin ko naman sir na that's all Mr. Chairman. Tapos then, opening ka na.
Opening statement.
Pagkabi dyan, on siya.
Ikaw na magbabasa na.
Okay na. We will consider rules, budget. Hello. And then, we will now proceed to the best. From here, I will say, we will now proceed to the budget presentation proper.
Budget presentation.
Okay. And then, from the budget presentation proper, how do I move on to the question?
Sir, first you have to read the rules, remind
Hindi, yan, babasahin ko yan after the call to order.
Didiretso mo na
Didiretso ko na
o
basahin.
before the interpellation?
Kasi ang ginagawa ko, simula ako ginagawa. Pero okay lang.
Para ma-remind sila.
Okay, sige. Okay. Sige.
Hello, ma'am. In 2 minutes, sir.
Okay. Teka, nahihirapan ako magbasa. Nahihirapan ako magbasa. Nagpa-fog up yung ano ko.
Yun ang problema.
Di ba? Nahihirapan ako magbasa.
Sir, ihuli na lang daw si kasi nagpo-formula. Mamaya. Ito-present ka naman.
Hindi natin hintayin.
Nakakita si sir ng butas.
Bigyan ano lang naman daw. Sabi, magtatanong na ako, sir. So, why?
Si sir.
Pwede ko tanggalin yung mask ko.
Pwede, sir.
Nahihirapan ako yung kumita yun. Kasi dapat. Wala ka mic? Sprayan mo yung mic. Okay na, sir. Pwede na. Good morning, everybody. I would like to call this budget briefing of the Department on Information and Communications Technology to order. The chair would like to acknowledge the secretary, Secretary Gregorio Honasan. May I request the secretariat to acknowledge the rest of the DICT family present, both physically and in Zoom.
Yes, sir. Good morning. We would like to acknowledge the presence of our honorable House officials and members via Zoom. Deputy Speaker Strike Revilla, Deputy Speaker Rosemary Baby Arena, Deputy Speaker Deogracias Victor D.V. Savellano, Representative Faustino Ino D., Representative Fernando Cabredo, Representative Alisa Sheena Tan, Representative Mark Go, Representative Siriaco Gato Jr., Representative Arlene Brosas, Representative Florida Rida Robes, Representative Euphemia Kafemia Colyamat, Representative Manuel D.G. Cabuchan, Representative Enrico Pineda, and also our representative present in the plenary, Congresswoman Julian Jam Baronda. We also would like to acknowledge the presence of our guest in the plenary, Secretary Gregorio Anasan, second, Undersecretary Emmanuel Rey Caintic, Undersecretary Eleazar Almalbis, Undersecretary Alan Silor, Undersecretary Manuel Anthony Tan, Undersecretary Arnold Atienza, Undersecretary Jose Arturo de Castro, Deputy Commissioner Edgardo Cabarrios, Executive Director Cesar Mancao, Deputy Executive Director James Layub, and on Zoom, Undersecretary Dennis Bellorente, Assistant Secretary Vicente Sijoco, Assistant Secretary Alvin Navarro, Assistant Secretary Gerald James Reyes, Assistant Secretary Christopher Tiansay, Assistant Secretary Ariel Macario Gaan Jr., and Privacy Commissioner and Chairman Raymond Liboro, Deputy Privacy Commissioner John Henry Naga, Deputy Privacy Commissioner Leandro Angelo Aguirre, Commissioner Gamaliel Cordova, and Deputy Commissioner Delilah Deles. That's all, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, again, good morning to all my colleagues, our guests from the DICT family. As we resume the budget hearings for the proposed budgets of departments, agencies, and corporations of the national government for fiscal year 2022, we will now consider the proposed budget for the DICT and its attached agencies. May I request the agency to present already as we proceed to the presentation proper?
Mr. Chairman, Your Honors, thank you very much for this privilege, and which to us is a duty to serve the highest public interest. Based on what the Chair has already said, may I request that Undersecretary Manica Intik be allowed to make the main presentation, after which we would ask permission to intervene when necessary about certain policy issues. Salamat po, Mr. Chairman.
Very well, Mr. Secretary. Yusek Intik, please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To the honorable members of the House of Representatives who are present today, a pleasant morning to everyone. Next slide, please. Today, we will walk you through the efforts of the DICT in the previous year for connectivity, capacity building, innovation, and cybersecurity. We'll also give you a glimpse of our proposed plans in 2022 and its corresponding budget proposal. Next slide. The National Broadband Program, or the NBP, has connected a total of 892 agencies through its GovNet sub-project. This has provided fast internet connectivity to government agencies in order to improve its public service delivery. On December 29, 2020, the DICT and the BCDA entered in a partnership specifically for the procurement of the National Fiber Backbone Phase 1. This project shall connect select provinces to the Luzon Bypass Infrastructure, or the LBI. Our goal is to cascade fast and reliable internet connection to the areas connected to the LBI. As of April this year, the contract was successfully awarded to the winning bidder. We have completed 94% of the project's design phase. To complement this, the DICT shall secure a resiliency route to provide 10 gigabits of internet to Metro Manila, Metro Cebu, and Metro Davao. We will launch this resiliency route on September 27, 2021. Another connectivity program of the department is the Free Wi-Fi for All program, which aims to provide free internet access in public places, schools and universities, and public hospitals. As of 26 August 2021, we have activated a total of 10,900 free Wi-Fi sites across the country. Of this number, more than 9,000 sites were located in public places, and 1,801 sites are located in state universities and colleges and TESDA schools. In 2021, amidst the global pandemic, the DICT was able to accelerate the deployment of these sites to about 500%. The third program under the connectivity thrust of the department is the National Government Data Center, or NGDC. It aims to provide a physical or on-cloud storage facility for government's data. Currently, the DICT has established 5 data center facilities, which hosts a total of 25 agencies. On the other hand, the DICT is hosting a total of 93 agencies on its on-cloud data center facility. We are coordinating with the Government Procurement Policy Board, or GPPB, for the issuance of the guidelines for the procurement of various ICT services. This much-needed update on our procurement rules will facilitate the implementation of critical ICT projects. We also acknowledge the pressing need to invest in capacitating Filipinos, especially our government personnel, in order for everyone to be able to become digital. We have partnered with the University of the Philippines Technology Management Center, where a total of 100 government employees shall be given a scholarship under the DICT's Government Chief Information Officer Master's Program. We are also training more than 150 government employees for ICT training under the Cisco and Microsoft certification courses. We are also continuing our efforts in capacitating Filipinos with specialized trainings that will help them land ICT-related jobs. We are currently upgrading our Tech for Ed centers to becoming International Telecommunications Union recognized Digital Transformation Centers, or DTCs. Next slide. We are also strengthening the information technology business process management industry, as this is one of the most resilient industries amidst the global pandemic. We are assigning selected LGUs to develop their digital cities roadmap that shall attract IT BPM investments in the countryside. To complement this, we are also capacitating Filipinos in the countryside in order to acquire online jobs. The DICT is also one of the agency conveners of the Innovative Startup Act, which aims to promote the Philippine startup economy through provision of support to select Filipino entrepreneurs. The DICT has been providing continuous support and technical assistance to the DOH for the ICT requirements for their COVID-19 response. Part of our support to the DOH is the technical vetting of various COVID-19 ICT solutions, as well as the development and rollout of particular ICT systems. These include the main case surveillance system called COVID Kaya, and also the feasibility analysis of syndromic surveillance system under spatial temporal epidemiological modeler for early detection of diseases, FASTER, which is the government's analytics and modeling platform for making executive decisions, particularly the bi-monthly community quarantine classifications across the country, and which is based on existing data on cases per region and LGU. The DICT has not only supported the DOH for its COVID-19 systems, but we have also provided support to other national government agencies such as the DOST and the DSWD on their ICT solutions called Rapid Pass and Relief Agad, respectively. The DICT has also provided support to the Interagency Task Force for the Management of Emerging Infectious Diseases for its national vaccination program through the Vaccine Information Management System. A strong vaccine information management system is critical to ensuring that the population of the Philippines is vaccinated. With this, we get the right reporting and analytics so we can track vaccine inventory as well as the progress in vaccinating the populace. This slide shows the different components of the VIMS and how they come together under one ecosystem, from the master listing functionality to vaccine administration, to providing inventory status of vaccines per LGU and per brand, as well as the vaccination line list data submission. Those all feed into the VIMS data warehouse, which now serves as the primary national immunization registry for COVID-19, and which can then be further used for analytics as well as the issuance of the VaxCert PH. Part of our work in leading the data management for the vaccine cluster is providing dashboards that show the national and regional vaccination coverage data for the entire country. We have also set up an inventory dashboard to help with the executive decision-making being done on vaccines allocation. LGUs submit data on a daily basis under the retool application. This helps DOH track which LGUs inventories are moving or are not. During the earlier rollout of the vaccines through the LGUs, we have observed that the traditional manual vaccination processes were slow and laborious. As a result, the DICT developed and implemented the DICT Vaccine Administration System, the newest version of which is being rolled out in Carmona today. The adoption has improved the vaccination process at the Bakuna centers by decreasing the average vaccination time for at least 50%. Apart from this, we are eliminating the process of encoding individual vaccine records every night after a whole day of jabbing. Earlier this week, next slide please. Earlier this week, the DICT launched the National Digital Vaccination Certificate called VaxCert PH. VaxCert PH aims to provide a digitally verifiable COVID-19 vaccination certificate issued to the requesting individual for whatever purpose it may be needed. The data is based on the individual vaccination records uploaded to the LGUs to the centralized National Vaccination Registry called VIMS. Through several consultative stakeholder meetings, VaxCert PH was developed primarily in compliance with the World Health Organization standard. VaxCert PH is designed to be accessed directly by the citizens through a web portal or mobile app and can be considered as the primary proof of vaccination status for purposes such as but not limited to international travel, especially with OFWs who need to show an authentic vaccination certificate to be allowed entry to their port of destination. Next slide, please. Aside from these systems for COVID-19 response, the DICT has also developed and implemented systems that aims to improve the public service delivery of the government. Next slide, please. Reducing the number of days to process permit and license applications for both the individuals and businesses. It also automated certain procedures, reducing the need to be physically present in order to complete the application process. One example is the integrated business process and licensing system, where more than 600 LGUs have already been using our business permit module. Another example is the Central Business Portal, or CBP, which has reduced the number of steps in business registration through the integration of the SEC with other NGAs like BIR, SSS, PhilHealth, HDMF, FDA, and the LGUs themselves. Yesterday, in order to show transparency, we helped our private sector accelerate their infrastructure build-out. The DICT launched the Digital Infrastructure Monitoring System called Tower Watch PH. This is the monitoring mechanism for tower construction, fiber construction, and in-building solutions construction. to better streamline permit processing time and accelerate the rollout of connectivity infrastructure in the country. While we hope to ease the regulatory burdens that slow down the construction of necessary telecommunications infrastructure, Tower Watch will provide transparency and consistency of applications submitted by independent tower companies, fiber laying companies, and in-building solution companies. We hope to cement the gains we have obtained from last year's joint memorandum circulars on permitting, as well as the Bayanihan 2 provisions, eliminating red tape. This portal will show transparency and consistency and will show the same information to all the stakeholders, government and private sector alike. All these systems, next slide please, all these systems and infrastructure shall be complemented with strong cybersecurity measures in order to protect our data and information. The DICT has provided vulnerability assessment and penetration testing services to more than 3,000 websites, private and public, and network systems. We have connected 10 agencies to the Security Operations Command. We have also conducted various cybersecurity awareness seminars that aims to educate the public to become digital citizens. The department has also been advocating for ease of government transactions through the Philippine National Public Key Infrastructure. The PNPKI is a secure way of digitally signing and verifying documents, reducing the need to do it physically. Aside from these, the department has also seen the importance of helping Filipinos before and after a disaster. Hence, we have implemented the Government Emergency Communication Systems Mobile Operations Vehicles for Emergencies, or GEX MOVE project. We have successfully handed 6 GEX MOVE sets to selected provinces in Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. We have pre-positioned these vehicles in case of emergencies such as Category 4 or Category 5 typhoons. Through this project, we will be able to immediately provide assistance to government and in delivering government services amidst emergencies. Next slide. As the end of the year draws near, the DICT shall continue to strive to reach its operational targets. We are targeting to activate 28 nodes under the National Fiber Backbone Phase 1 and start the preparatory activities for Phase 2 of the implementation. Similarly, we shall continue to pursue the provision of free Wi-Fi sites to about 7,000 public places, especially the vaccination centers. The DICT shall also extend the government data center facilities to new locations in Visayas and Mindanao. We shall continue to serve them through our capacity building activities, through online courses and trainings, scholarships for government personnel, and upgrading DTCs. Next slide, please. We will continue assisting and promoting the IT-BPM industry through our various programs and projects, and we shall proactively reach out to selected cities under the Digital Cities program. To further improve the government's public service delivery, we shall continue to improve our systems and provide technical assistance to NGAs and LGUs who are still not able to automate their services. We intend to create a bureau dedicated to government, developing government systems for and behalf of government agencies who cannot or are finding it hard to develop their own systems. It is also important that these systems and infrastructure need to be secured. Thus, we shall ensure security and protection of our systems, including individuals' data. Moreover, we wish to continue to provide more GEX Move vehicles to regions and provinces in our 7,000 islands. Next slide, please. The Digital Infrastructure Plan, or DIP, lay out the blueprint for the provision of fast, affordable, and reliable internet connectivity in the country. By building a common national digital infrastructure, we will be able to fully utilize the digital technologies and effectively participate in the digital economy. The digital infrastructure outlines our vision in building a strong digital foundation in order to widen the base for new players in providing internet service connectivity to our country. Again, our vision is to create a national digital, a common digital infrastructure. For the year 2022, the NDP shall also be able to operationalize the LBI, or Luzon Bypass Infrastructure, and implement the second phase of the implementation of the National Fiber Backbone. To further improve the digital infrastructure of the country, we shall pursue various partnerships with the private sector and be able to utilize their spare dark fibers already laid down across the archipelago through the free Wi-Fi program. We are also looking at partnering with the LGUs for the distribution of the internet. We will flow through this backbone in their respective jurisdiction. Again, the common digital infrastructure will allow for new players, the LGUs themselves, to distribute this internet. This infrastructure shall form what we call the regional broadband infrastructure, or regional rings. The last program under the DIP is the National Government Data Center, and we are targeting to establish dedicated cloud regions for Amazon, Oracle, Alibaba, Azure, and the likes, wherein government agencies and offices will be able to locally host and reside their data here in the Philippines, reducing the long latency of data. We shall continue with the provision of the necessary ICT skills through certification courses, and we look forward to adopting ITU standards. We shall continue to support the IT BPM industry, as this is one of the most resilient industries, even during this health crisis. We want to decentralize the IT BPM investments from Metro Manila, Cebu, and Davao, but also in 25 budding cities. We will continue to fortify the security and protection of our infrastructure by employing various cyber-related activities such as VAPT and cyber threat monitoring. We shall continue to advocate and promote the use of PNPKI, and it shall be used for the 2022 national and local elections. The DICT shall provide digital signatures to 800,000 DepEd public school teachers, many of whom will be involved in the upcoming elections. The following slides contain the allocated budget of the DICT OSEC in the National Expenditure Program. We have also provided a comparison of our NEP level with the proposal that we gave to DBM. The DICT's total budget proposal in order to achieve the priority targets in 2022 was 34.63 billion pesos. This already includes our proposal to use the 8.4 billion pesos from the Spectrum Users Fee special account in the General Fund. Our total level in the NEP, however, for new appropriations is only at 9.067 billion pesos, which includes the 2.5 billion for the Free Public Internet Access Fund. The variance between our budget proposal and net level is about 25.565 billion pesos. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and good morning.
Um, since the presentation of the budget of the DICT is finished, I would like to proceed to the question and answer portion uh, by members. But before this, I would like to lay down our rules. First of all, the 5-minute rule shall be observed strictly for all interpellators. The time applies to questions only, excluding the response of the resource persons. Second, if the department needs more time to respond, they may request that the same be submitted in writing to the member and the copy furnished to the Committee on Appropriations. Third, for orderly proceedings, a member or a resource person who wants to interpellate or answer must first seek the recognition of the chair before speaking. And lastly, all questions and answers must be directed to the chair to avoid engaging the resource person or the member in a conversation. That's all. I will now read the members who will be asking. We will start with the minority, as tradition dictates. We will start with Representative Franz Castro.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can you hear me at the session hall, Mr. Chair?
Yes, Representative Castro. Please proceed.
Magandang umaga po, Mr. Chair, sa inyo at sa ating mga colleagues. At syempre po magandang umaga sa pamilya po ng DICT, sa pamumuno po ni Secretary po, Hunasan. Unang tanong, Mr. Chair, napansin ko po sa budget ng DICT, bumaba po ng 23.39% ang total new appropriation or 1.9 billion po ang DICT. Mula sa 8.457 billion, naging 6.479 billion po dito sa ating net. So, ang mga cuts po ay dun sa ICT governance program, ICT systems, infrastructure, development, management, ICT capacity development and management program. And zero budget po sa free internet Wi-Fi connectivity in public places at saka doon po sa internet Wi-Fi connectivity sa mga SUC. Zero budget po ang DICT sa program na inilaan na 2.5 billion sa source spectrum users fees collected by NTC. Parang ganito rin po, Mr. Chair, no, yung last year or yung inaano natin yung budget ng 2020, panahon po ng pandemya, no, nagkaroon po tayo ng kumbaga new normal. Pero parang hindi po yata pandemic response itong budget ng DICT, Mr. Chair. Pwede po bang makahingi ng comment sa DICT, Mr. Chair?
The chair directs, of course, Representative Castro, the chair directs DICT to give the request of Representative Castro.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Your Honor, to the Honorable Representative Franz Castro, bago ko kayo i-refer kay Undersecretary Kaintik, kayo na rin po ang nagsabi sa ating mga mambabatas kung ano ang nangyari nung huli naming budget proposal, nung huling budget hearing. Sa ngayon po, para matugunan namin yung lahat ng pangangailangan sa connectivity, lahat po ng programa namin na maaari naman namin ipaliwanag, humingi ho kami ng 34 billion, inilalaan ho para sa amin ay 9 billion. So parang po kami ng 25 billion. Yan po ang istorya ng inyong DICT sa budget hearings. Hindi ho kami nagrereklamo At as I explained to the chairman, we repose our trust and confidence in the collective wisdom and judgment of Congress. Yun lang po, napakabigat po ng aming hinaharap in terms of programs. Sa National Broadband Program po lang po, yung inilaan sa amin ay kulang pa sa isang region. Nandito pa po yung pandemya, and we are trying our best to respond to this to the best of our ability, given the resources that were given to us by the Honorable Congress. Ngayon po, sa paintulot po ninyo, Mr. Chairman, I will turn you over to Undersecretary Kaintik para sa detalye po ng aking paunang paliwanag. Maraming salamat po, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I actually commend the observation of Congresswoman Franz Castro. Very apt and appropriate observation. However, the DICT is one with the national government in understanding the limited fiscal space. However, while we do understand the fiscal space, our only prayer as a department are focused on three things. Number one, as you might have heard earlier, we have gained substantial traction in the preliminary creation of a national immunization registry, the beginnings of actually digital healthcare. The 112 million given to us for 2022 will not be enough to sustain the gains we have made in creating the vaccine information systems and other COVID-related systems, which will serve as the preliminary e-health systems for the country. So we wish consideration from Congress to increase this, at least sustain the gains of the COVID-19 response and information systems. So that's the silver lining of COVID, no? We managed to jumpstart the creation of a national immunization registry. Dati-rati, ang records ng bakuna mo nandun lang sa baby book ng magulang mo. Ngayon, nagkaroon na tayo ng central database of immunization records. Sayang naman pag hindi natin masustain. 112 million will not be enough. Pangalawa, while we understand doon sa national Wi-Fi, isa lang naman ang hinihingi namin. Unleash the 8 billion SUF. Because with that, we can do a lot of things in terms of connectivity. Wala rin namang ibang pwedeng gumamit ng SUF. The law provides that's only used for the DICT's connectivity. So please unleash it for us. Then lastly, we are a typhoon country. 6 GEX move vehicles will not be enough to preposition, even if we preposition them in a pandemic, more than 6 provinces will definitely be hit. So we aim to add more of GEX move. These mobile emergency communications vehicles, hindi to kalakihan, hindi to masyadong mahal, but allow us to buy more of these. Kasi pag nagka-pandemic, sa amin lang din kayo pupunta at magtatanong ba't walang signal doon sa tinamaan na bagyo. Thank you very much, Congresswoman Franz, for your observation. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, can I continue? Mr. Chair?
What's that again? Kindly repeat, Representative Castro.
So, sinasabi po ng DICT, Mr. Chair, nag-request sila ng 34 billion proposal, pero 9 billion lang po yung naibigay ng DBM. So, parang di ata katanggap-tanggap sa atin na parang gusto na lang nilang tanggapin ito. Dapat po, Mr. Chair, magpagalit sila, dahil panahon ng pandemya, alam niyo po, ang mga teachers, ang mga estudyante, hirap na hirap po. dito sa internet connection. Talagang ano po yung special provision ng pagbibigay ng free wifi sa public at saka itong broadband ay talagang zero out dito sa NEP, yung special provision. At least 2 years ko na po itong 2 years ko na po itong napansin, Mr. Chair. Talagang hindi yata ramdam ng executive, no, yung pandemya with regards to the yung communication. So ibig sabihin ba, Mr. Chair, aasa na naman ang taong bayan, aasa na naman ang teachers, students dito sa mga napakamahal na telco providers natin? Ibig ba sabihin yung third telco na meron na tayo ngayon, aasa ba tayo doon sa mga telcos natin? So ano po ba yung relasyon tingin ninyo nitong pagkaka-aproba ng isa pang telco as doon sa pag-zero in ng budget dito sa mga free wifi para sa publiko?
I would like to gently remind the Representative Castro that she has 1 minute and 20 seconds left
Yes, Mr.
for her question. I would like to ask you, the Secretary, to answer.
Again, Mr. Chairman, maraming salamat po. Maraming salamat po muli, Kinatawan na Franz Castro. No? Nakukumbinsi na po namin yung mga telco na magtulungan tayo dito. Hindi na po pinag-uusapan dito yung kikitain dahil the telecommunications industry is so big that you can actually moderate your grid. Pwedeng timplahin naman yung corporate objectives at saka yung nabanggit ni Kinatawan Castro na public interest component nito. Nakukumbinsi na po namin sila at ibig ko pong ibalita sa inyo na tumutulong na sila sa atin. Nagtutulungan na po tayo. And maybe with a little backup sa ating mga kinatawan with Congress, we might develop some traction here. Example po, para mapabilis yung serbisyo, dahil yun naman ang utos ng ating Pangulo, no? Connectivity. Do this, sabi na, connect government to other governments, domestic and local. Nakakonekta na po tayo effectively. Kung maitatanong po mamaya, no, our connectivity programs have improved by 700% sa fixed at saka more than 300% sa mobile. Hindi pa po tayo nandun sa itaas, pero hindi na ho tayo kulelat ngayon. That's one good news. Meron ho tayong common tower policy para yung binanggit kanina ni Kinatawang Castro, Mr. Chairman, no? Dati-dati po, isang tower, isang telco. Ngayon po, may common tower policy na tayo. Magsasama-sama yung mga telco sa isang tore na kung mapansin po ninyo, pag nakakaikot po kayo, iba na po ang itsura ng mga tore natin ngayon. Maliliit, kaya yung almost 400 kilometers per hour na hangin, pwede nyong baklasin at i-relocate in 2 weeks' time. So, malaki po ang improvement. Yung spectrum management policy po na nabanggit niyo kanina, no? Yung pag-allocate ng frequencies, meron tayong spectrum management policy para yung hindi nila nagamit, no, ay maibigay na rin natin dun sa ibang players. Meron ho tayong impression, Mr. Chairman, Kinatawan Castro, na 3 lang yung telco. Actually ho, 4 na po yan. 3 malalaki at yung iba ho maliliit na nagsasama-sama na ngayon. At ang net effect nitong competition ay lower prices and more efficient services. At this point, Mr. Chairman, with your permission, for additional details and for more focus, may I also ask Undersecretary Kaintik to add to what we have already said.
Yusek Kaintik.
Mr. Chair, we are actually very sympathetic about the problems of our connectivity. That is why the department is spending all of its efforts in digital connectivity. Our primary flagship program is the National Broadband and Free Wi-Fi, and we are now fusing them together as Digital Infrastructure Plan. That is why, as I've said a bit earlier, we need Congress's help to unleash the SUF. While we are cognizant as one government of the fiscal space. I am not settling for less. We are settling for what is realistic. We're asking for what is due and demandable for the department, which is the unlocking of the SUF. With that, we can do a lot already. So that is my comment, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Secretary.
we would like to underscore na, Mr. Chairman, maybe with Congress help, napansin ho kasi namin na yung appreciation, yung pag-unawa ng gobyerno, ng pamahalaan mismo sa connectivity ay hindi pa sapat. Akala ho nila internet speed lang ito, cellphone, mga signal na nawawala, mahal, no? At kuminsan hindi gumagana kahit na nagbabayad ka. Actually ho, ang nakasalalay dito ay basic constitutional principles. Life, liberty, and property ang nakataya rito. Hindi ho namin aalisin na importante yung tulay, importante yung kalsada. Pero kailangan i-connect ho natin yung infrastructure dun sa tinatawag natin na infrastructure. Tulad po, Mr. Chairman, no? Your Honors, tuwing may natural calamities, ang unang tanong, may kuryente ba? Actually po, sa aming pananaw, ang dapat itanong, meron ba tayong contact? Para malaman natin kung sino yung walang kuryente, kung sino yung na-wash out yung tulay, kung sino yung barangay na na-isolate, na nagugutom, para mahatira natin ang pagkain at ayuda. So yun po ang nakataya rito. So maybe we are appealing. Sabi ko nga ho kanina, hindi naman kami nagrereklamo o nagsusumbong because we trust in your collective judgment and wisdom. Yung resources, so kulang talaga. Kahit na yung pinakamayayaman na bansa, kulang ho talaga sa pondo. Maybe it's just a question of prioritizing this para alam natin kung sino ang uunahin with whatever we have. Maraming salamat po, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary.
Okay, Mr. Chair, I just would like to use my 1 minute no sa manifestation. So sinasabi po natin sa sagot po ng DICT na parang naiasa na lang po sa private sector itong internet access. Alam niyo po nowadays kahit sa ibang bansa internet access and connectivity nowadays is a right. At kailangan din natin talaga ito sa eskwelahan natin dahil hanggang ngayon si Pangulong Duterte ay sinasabi pa rin niya po na wala munang face-to-face, lalo na sa basic education. Kaya napakahalaga po nito. Kaya kung hindi po ito matutugunan, Mr. Chair, yung talagang yung ating internet connectivity, free access to internet connectivity sa pamamagitan po nitong mga program natin for free access sa public, ay malamang na talagang aasa naman po tayo sa ibang mga telco at magbabayad na naman po ang teachers doon sa kanilang internet connectivity. Kaya nga po may proposal akong 1.5 a month na internet allowance para sa mga teachers. So yun lang po Mr. Chair, sana po pagsikapan nating maibalik itong sa budget ng DICT, itong
I would like to remind the Honorable Castro that her time is up.
Internet Wi-Fi connectivity. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Representative Castro. I would like to call from the majority to interpellate and ask questions. Representative Macnel Lusotan.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, my dear colleagues, Secretary Unasan, and the DICT family. Again, good morning. I would like to direct my question, Mr. Chairman. Tama ba ang pagkaintindi ko that all ICT programs of government agencies should be approved by the Medium-Term Information and Communication Technology Harmonization Initiative, the steering committee which approves ICT projects of specific government agencies for inclusion and the respective national expenditure program. Mr. Chair.
Mr. Secretary.
Mr. Chairman, salamat po. Your Honor, salamat po. We'd like to request permission for Undersecretary Kentik to respond to the question.
Mr. Chair, last July, the MITI Steering Committee convened its last steering committee. We, the Department of Budget and Management and NEDA, have officially dissolved MITI. We have come to realize that it has served its purpose already. However, in the interest of expediting digital transformation, we identified that DICT and DBM by itself already has the avenues to steer digital transformation. Kung kaya dinisolve na po namin ang MITI Steering Committee para mas sa ganon mapapabilis ang pagbili at pag-implement ng mga government agencies ng kanilang mga proyektong pagpapaganda sa kanilang mga programa. But hindi po ibig sabihin dito na mawawalan po ng overview ang Department of ICT sa mga programa ng government. Ang mangyari po, yung nakasanayang Information System Strategic Plan ay kailangan pa rin isumiti sa DICT, no longer for endorsement, but for means of documenting. Ibig sabihin, kailangan pirmahan ng head of agency, their IT head, and our accredited IS planner. What are we trying to do here, Mr. Chair? We're trying to instill discipline of IS planning. Whatever information systems procurement an agency has to do, it should be aligned to the strategic plans of that agency. So after, post-audit if ever. So we will assume this as a Bible truth from the agency, but we will do post-audit. Meaning to say, if an agency suddenly buys something na wala naman dapat sa plan or taliwas doon sa kanilang strategic goals as an agency, we will look into those. But again, we eliminated MITI and simplified the ISSP submission para hindi maging rason ng isang agency, hindi ko na digitally transform. Kasi ina-approve nyo pa, inaaral nyo pa DICT, DBM. So ang sabi namin, proceed. You as the head of government and a government agency should know better what you need to do. It is incumbent upon the head of the agency and its IT head to plan what they need. So go ahead, but observe the timelines. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, DICT. Representative Losotan.
Mr. Chair, to proceed, Mr. Chair, ito bang kwa natin sa Maritime Industry Authority, mayroon na bang na-submit sa DICT na ICT program ng Marina? At kung meron lang na-submit ang Marina, ano po ang status? Mr. Chair, I ask this as representative of the Seafarers Marino Party List. So, malaking tulong, Mr. Chair, itong automation ng Marina. Kasi alam natin, Mr. Chair, na ang Pilipinas ay #1 provider sa international seafaring industry ng mga marino. So kung fully automated na ang Marina, kahit nasa high seas itong ating mga seafarers, ay makapag-transact sila, connected sila sa Marina sa ating gobyerno. So, yun natanong ko, Mr. Chair, kasi kailangan natin ito. At saka ang Marina ay may mandate tayo to comply with the international convention. That's all, Mr. Chair.
DICT.
Mr. Chair, noong 2019, around June of 2019, tama po si Congressman, nagkaroon po ng Maritime Industry Development Plan, MIDP. I remember it vividly. It was held in PICC. Yun po ang naging basihan for a lot of interagency systems that need to be done. Marina, PPA, Coast Guard, meron pong ganon. Ang amin pong response, ang amin pong trabaho as DICT is to spearhead the interconnection of all those systems as well as lead the interoperability requirements. We will ask ASEC Vic Sihoko, Mr. Chair, to send the Honorable Congressman an update on the latest of their interagency activities which he joins. We will just respond in writing, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, Mr.
Thank you,
Chairman.
DICT. Congressman Elosotan.
Yun lang, Mr. Chair. Salamat kung makapag-submit sila para ma-post natin ito, Mr. Chair. Kasi, as I said, we need to automated itong system natin dito sa Marina dahil karamihan sa ating mga Pilipinong marino nasa abroad. So, thank you, Mr. Chair, and I manifest our support for the approval of the DICT budget for 2022. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Representative Losotan. For the minority, I would like to recognize the Honorable Representative Sara Elago. Is Congresswoman Elago here? Congresswoman Elago? Okay, I will now proceed to recognize Congresswoman Euphemia Culyamat. Is Kafemia here? Okay, Congresswoman Culyamat is on Zoom. Please proceed with your question, Representative Kafemia. Representative Kafemia.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Please proceed.
Nais ko po, Mr. Chair, nais ko pong ibigay ang aking oras kay Kong Franz Castro.
Okay. Okay, the chair recognizes, in lieu of Representative Culyamat, the chair recognizes Representative Franz Castro.
Salamat, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Kafemia. Representative Castro.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Maraming
Welcome
salamat
back.
Kafemia. Can I proceed, Mr. Chair?
Yes, please.
Yes. Ito po kasing Mr. Chair, kasi ang mga yung ating mga kaguruan at saka yung mga parents at saka yung mga estudyante po. Ito sa connectivity pa rin po nagkaroon po ng survey. At sinasabi po ng ating sinasabi po ng ating mga parents, 67% ng ating mga tinanong, at saka yung mga teachers, 84%, saka students, 71%, sinasabing unstable mobile internet connection. So kahit na po, Mr. Chair, meron tayong mga telcos, talagang kahit nga po tayo nawawalan din ng stable internet connection. So ano po ba ang magagawa dito ng DICT, Mr. Chair? Kahit po nag-avail tayo sa telco, pero very poor pa rin yung internet connection. Pwede po bang makahingi ng comment mula sa DICT?
DICT?
Meron po ba silang parang pagpe-penalize dito sa mga telcos na to na talagang poor po yung signal natin at internet access?
DICT?
Opo. Mr. Chairman, before I again turn you over to the Secretary Kaintik, ibig ko lang pong i-report sa inyo, sa ating Kongreso, na hindi ho natin pinauubaya sa private sector yung pag-i-improve ng serbisyo. No? At kasama po yan sa regulatory function ng inyong DICT. So, ang katanungan po ng kinatawan na Franz Castro ay ano pa ba ang ating magagawa? Being a regulatory department, no? A technical support department, wala ho kaming maaring gawin kundi pakiusapan sila na isipin naman yung subscribers, yung mga estudyante, yung mga work from home, yung mga study from home. Kaya nga po, ma'am, sinusubukan nating i-connect. May project ko kami ngayon. We are trying to connect through ICT 25 million classrooms and 33 million students. Kaya lang po, pag lumalapit paminsan-minsan kami dun sa, let's say, local government units at saka dun sa mga telcos, pinagtutugma po namin yung objectives nila para ma-rationalize natin yung distribution ng serbisyo sa murang pamamaraan kung hindi libre, sa mas mabilis na pamamaraan, at for privacy purposes, sa mas secure na pamamaraan. I will now turn you over to Undersecretary Kaintik for added explanation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We are cognizant of the unstable internet. And this still boils down to number one, the lack of tower density ratio. That is why we have been making sure that the regulations are in place. We eliminate any red tape and inconvenience for the telcos, and we do not want them to have any more reason not to deploy and build more towers. So that's already in place. Yesterday, we have also implemented the digital infrastructure monitoring system. So doon, isang tower company, isang telco, pumunta ka doon sa system, ilagay mo, magtatayo ako ng tore sa lugar na ito. Sino, saan to? LGU, sinong ilagay mo doon kung kailan mo binigay yung papeles, sino ang mayor, lagay mo doon kung sino dapat pumirma. Nang sa ganon, kita namin, kita ng Anti-Red Tape Authority, kita ng LGU, kita ng NGA, na meron kang sinumiting application. So what natin ito ginagawa? Para ma-make sure wala nang rason ang mga telco, fiber, tower companies na hindi sila makapaglagay. Pero sa lahat ng yan, halimbawa, tumutuloy na, and yet pangit pa rin ang serbisyo nila, we will also be at the forefront of creating regulation for penalizing bad service. Pero sa ngayon, Mr. Chair, ang tutok muna namin is to enable them to build para hindi nila pwedeng ibalik ang question, kasi nahihirapan kaming maglagay. Yun po ang aming line of reasoning. Pero as the government itself, kasabi lang natin kanina, the national broadband and the free Wi-Fi will be fused together as digital infrastructure plan to create a common digital infrastructure. Nang sa ganon, ang government na mismo ang maglalatag ng mga fiber sa mga lugar na hindi economically or financially viable for these telcos. That is our government response. So kahit sa mga lugar na walang internet, ayaw nila maglatag doon, hindi siya nagmi-make economic or financial sense, kami na po ang maglalatag. That is why we need your support, Mr. Chair, and the body, the congressional body, to really unlock our funds for use of digital infrastructure. Thank you po, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, DICT. Representative Castro?
So, salamat Mr. Chair. So, sa tugon po ng DICT, no, hanggang ngayon po pala, no, wala pa po tayong regulation power ang DICT at ngayon pa. At mukhang tayo pa ang sisisihin, ano, ang DICT pa, no, mga telcos. Pero kailangan na nating magkaroon ng ngipin, Mr. Chair, sa DICT dahil nangongolekta itong mga telcos na ito. Tama naman ang bayad ng mga consumer, pero very poor ang service ng mga telcos na ito. So baka pwedeng ma-review, sa legislation, kung paano po mape-penalize ito sa kapakinabangan po para po sa ating mga mamamayan, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Mr. Secretary.
Bago ko ipakiusap sa Chair na we recognize NTC, Deputy Commissioner Egay Cabarros. Hindi po natin, ayaw po namin na magkaroon kayo ng impression na wala hong kapangyarihan ng inyong pamahalaan or DICT para i-regulate yung telecommunications industry. Pag medyo nagmatigas sila, pwede nating bawiin yung frequency. Hindi na sila makapag-operate, no? Bakit naman tayo hahantong sa ganon na ngayon po talagang tumutulong na po sila? At this point po, para hindi na magtagal, I would like to ask Commissioner Egay to add to that explanation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Your Honors, we are regulating po the performance of telecommunications companies, Your Honor. As a matter of fact, Your Honor, of 97% of the complaints on poor services were resolved upon the intervention of the Commission, and 3% were brought to legal for prosecution. If found that they have violated rules on the standards quality of services, they can be impose penalties, Your Honor, but the penalty is very, very low. It's 200 pesos per day, Your Honor. Meron din pong penalty, which is very harsh, is the cancellation of the authority granted to them. So these are available for the Commission to undertake. But we are coordinating very, very closely with the telcos for them to continuously improve the services. And as the number of towers, cell sites increase, the number po of areas where signal is marginal, mababawasan na po yan. So the incidence of intermittent services, mababawasan na po as the number of cell towers increase, Your Honor. Mabilis na po siya ngayon. Thank you very much, Your Honor.
Mr. Deputy Commissioner, kindly correct me if what I'm going to say is inaccurate in any way, but it is to the knowledge of the chair, the NTC, under the NTC law, internet services are considered value added.
Yes, Your Honor. Internet services are value-added services, Your Honor.
Being such, the NTC has no punitive powers over the telcos when it comes to internet services. Is that correct?
Your Honor, they are offering services, Your Honor. And if they offer services, we have the power to regulate them, Your Honor. Now, if there are complaints, then we attend to complaints and try to resolve as fast as we can. And we have done that. As I've said earlier, 97% have been resolved upon the intervention of the Commission. So ganyan po ang ginagawa. While it is a value-added service, the it is the agreement between the subscriber and the telco because it's a value-added service. But since they are a service provider, they are under our jurisdiction, Your Honor.
Okay, so that is clear. But to be fair to the NTC and to the service providers, I am aware that independent tests conducted have shown that internet speed has increased already as well as coverage. But again, I would like to take note and make a point that value-added services ang internet service. So, yun lang po, DICT family.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Secretary.
Mr. Chairman, may I be allowed to add to the point raised by the chair? No?
Yes, Mr. Secretary.
Totoo po yun na yung internet services constitutes value added. But this is a consequence of the basic regulatory function, which is the spectrum, the frequency, which is actually state property. Kaya lang po, dahil yung NTC is a quasi-judicial body, pag nagmatigas po sila at nagpumili tayo, due process will ensue. Dadalhin ho tayo sa korte at matagal ho yun. Kaya ang ginagawa po namin, and this advice has come from Congress itself, is pakiusapan na i-apply natin yung principles of convergence and private-public partnership para mapagtulungan po natin ito. That is our approach. But again, we will repose, that is beyond the competence of your DICT to evaluate this on a national policy level. Doon ho kami pumapasok lang, nag-intervene, kaya lang hanggang doon lang po ang intervention natin historically. So that principle emanates from the allocation of frequencies, which is state property. Salamat po.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Nililinaw lang po ng chair dahil gusto natin klaro ang nilalatagan natin. So I would like to go back to Representative Castro.
Yes, Mr. Chair, if I may comment, although sinasabi nating value-added, lang ito, value-added services, itong internet. Pero kagaya nga po ng sinabi ko sa inyo kanina na yung internet access ay right na po yan, basic right na po yan, na nakapaloob sa United Nations na List of Rights. Kaya po, baka dapat sa legislation, Mr. Chair, mabigyan natin ito ng kung titignan natin kung isa ito sa magiging magiging part ng regulatory ng ating NTC o ng DITC, itong internet connection, internet access ng ating mga mamamayan, be it. So pag-aaralan po natin ito para mabago natin na parang kumbaga value added service lang ito kaya okay lang, pero ito po ay basic rights. Kaya Mr. Chair, sana po mabigyan tayo ng ng guidelines, kaukulang guidelines ng NTC paano po nila nire-regulate etong mga telco na ito when it comes to internet access. So, yun lang po, Mr. Chair, at maraming salamat po.
Thank you, Representative Castro. The chair would like to recognize from the majority Deputy Speaker B.H. Herrera D.
Maraming salamat, Mr. Chair. Magandang umaga po sa DICT family. Well, may mga, doon din po ako magtutuon ng pansin doon sa free Wi-Fi na issues natin. Mr. Secretary, through you, Mr. Chair, gusto ko lang tanungin kung don't you think it's high time that we re-strategize the free Wi-Fi? Kasi parang ginagawa natin, binibigyan lang natin ng isda yung mga LGUs. Kasi po kami sa bagong henerasyon naniniwala that we re-strategize the free Wi-Fi.
Medyo, Deputy Speaker, medyo mahina yung chop-in dating mo. Pakiulit lang, please.
Okay, can you hear me now, Mr. Chair?
Yes, yes.
Okay. No, my question is, don't you think it's high time that we re-strategize the free Wi-Fi? Because binibigay lang natin siya sa LGUs na parang binibigyan lang natin ng isda. Pero we don't really teach them how to fish. So ano ba ang pwede nating ibang direksyon dun sa free Wi-Fi natin?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Ma'am, nagpapasalamat po kami, ma'am, dahil ni-ratio yung issue yan. Ano? This is not about the budget. And this is not about the distribution of hardware or software tablets. Actually po, ma'am, we would like to inform the body, Mr. Chairman, that the DICT has a plan. We are actually strategizing and planning and trying to implement that plan to the best of our ability with our obviously limited resources. No? Tuwing lalapit po kami sa ibang agency para itanong kung kumusta naman yung connectivity programs nila, kuminsan po nagkakamali sila, they are getting the impression that we are interested in their budget. Hindi po, ma'am. As you correctly pointed out, we are interested that we follow the same blueprint, the same roadmap, the same end-to-end plan para wala hong matapon at masayang na pondo. But I would like to inform you, ma'am, that we are already synthesizing and combining these strategic plans, not only for distribution of Wi-Fi access points, but for the entire broadband and other ICT-driven programs. With your permission, Mr. Chair, may I turn you over for more details to Undersecretary Manica Intic.
Yusek Intic.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Actually, I commend DS Herrera for her comment. Tama, no? Marami kaming mga pinaglalalagay na mga free Wi-Fi sites at alinsunod lang naman din yon sa batas. However, na-observe namin, especially the past 2 years, that the major question is sustainability. 70-80% of each free Wi-Fi site. Alam niyo po, ang isang free Wi-Fi site, siguro ang magandang signal kasing laki lang nitong nasa floor. So hindi ka naman siguro kung ikaw taga-mamamayan sa isang lugar, sabihin mo, punta tayo doon sa isang lugar, sa hospital na ganyan. Bakit? May free internet doon. May COVID din doon. So, okay? Ang point ko, what we need to build, and we are trying to really fuse together and improve the free Wi-Fi law, and fuse it together with the National Broadband Program, and we're now calling it the Digital Infrastructure Plan. Papamana namin to sa mga papalit sa amin. What we're trying to do is build the infrastructure of fibers all throughout the country, what we're calling the regional rings, provincial rings, municipal rings. Nang sa ganon, tsaka magsisipag sindi yung mga Wi-Fi sites na parang kabuti. Kaysa, nagpapaulan kami ng mga free Wi-Fi sites lang. Kailangan siya para sa mga vaccination centers, RHUs, kailangan kasi nga ngayon. So hindi rin namin pwedeng itigil lang basta. Pero ang kailangan talaga ng bansa is that yung bawat sulok ng Pilipinas magkaroon ng fiber. Nang sa ganon, matatayuan ng tore. Nang sa gayon, magkakaroon ka ng signal sa cellphone, magkakaroon ka rin ng fiber sa bahay mo. So yun po yung aming response dito, Mr. Chair. We are building
Mr. Chair.
digital infrastructure through regional rings. Thank you po. Sorry.
Yes, DS.
Yes, Mr. Chair. That's really my point. Dahil hindi tayo pwedeng ganun eh. Sayang yung sustainability. Now, ang tanong ko, through you, Mr. Chair, ano ang kailangan natin para ma-build itong sinasabi mong rings, regional rings, provincial rings? What we need to do here in Congress to help you achieve that para naman maging makatotohanan yung free Wi-Fi law namin that where I'm one of the authors of that law.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Secretary.
with your permission, may I don't know if it's within the rules for me to intervene when a honorable member of the House asks the chair. With your permission po.
With the indulgence of the Deputy Speaker, Mr. Secretary, Deputy Speaker, can the Secretary make an interjection?
Of course, opo.
Ma'am, tinatanong ninyo kung ano ang pwedeng gawin ng Kongreso. Tulungan ninyo kami sa budget. Kahit na kaunti, basta't maidagdag, okay na ho kami dyan. Hindi kami it will not make it an issue. Ang mahalaga ho sa amin, kung pwede nyo kaming tulungan, is kinausap na namin yung lahat ng private and public sector players. Para malaman po namin, Mr. Chair, Madam Congresswoman, kung pwede nila tayong mabigyan, lalo na yung Kongreso, ng mapa. Where are they? Nasa middle mile ba sila o nasa last mile? Para doon na lang kami kukonect. Dahil wala kaming pondo o kulang ang pondo namin, baka nandun na kayo sa middle mile, nasa Visayas na kayo, nasa Mindanao, doon na lang ho kami kukonect para makatipid yung telecom industry. Medyo nahihirapan ho kami dahil siyempre kailangan kausapin, pakiusapan, and we do not want to apply non-existent coercive powers, which we do not have. Tatakbo na naman kami sa Department of Justice, tatakbo kami sa Philippine National Police, tatakbo kami sa inyo. So maybe that's one approach. Aside from the necessary legislative intervention and executive action that Congress can recommend to the executive branch and maybe discuss by itself. So that's one starting point po. Ipakita ninyo sa amin kung nasa na kayo, whether fiber yan, satellite yan, antena yan, no? Tower yan, basta't malaman nating lahat kung nasa na kayo para wag na natin ulitin at masasayang pa po yung pondo na limitado na po. Salamat po, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Deputy Speaker.
Yes, Mr. Chair, with all due respect to Mr. Secretary, hindi po kasi ako naniniwala na wala kayong pondo. Kailangan lang po nating magtulungan. If you remember, if you recall, a year ago or two budget hearings ago, I mentioned about the earmarked revenues coming from the SUF. And during the budget deliberations of DBCC, I pointed out there's an 11 billion balance in the SUF. And when I asked DBM, bakit hindi po nire-release sa inyo, sa DICT, ang sagot po sa akin, dahil ang disbursement rate nyo daw po ay 23%. Now I asked them, ano ba ang, kasi naniniwala ako, I told DBM, yung SUF, hiwalay po ito na pondo, so hindi dapat pagbasihan ang disbursement rate ng DICT in general. Ngayon, can I ask, ano po ang disbursement rate nung inilaan na pondo for SUF for 2020 and 2021?
DICT.
Pardon, Mr. Chair, I'm still looking for the figure.
Mr. Chair, habang hinahanap ni Yusek Manny, kasi nga po itong ating SUF are earmarked revenues. The remaining balance is around 11 billion and every year halos nasa 2.5 billion lang ang nire-release sa DICT. And ang sinisisi nila palagi is DICT. But I asked the assurance,
Yes, please proceed, Deputy Speaker.
sorry,
Are we having technical
can you hear
issues?
me? Can you hear me?
Okay, yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
So, ang inaano ko, Mr. Chairman, is ano na po yung, ayun nga, sinabi ko sa DBM, dapat kung nauubos ba ang pondo ng DICT for the SUF, pwede bang lakihan natin ang hingi palagi? Ang kulang lang daw is the plan or kung paano i-disburse ng DICT. Kaya binabalik ko sa DICT, ano ba ang disbursement rate nyo dun sa SUF? Every time binibigyan kayo ng 2 billion.
DICT, can we clarify this issue?
Mr. Chair, thank you. Historically, the past 2 years, ano kasi kami, ang free Wi-Fi backloaded. Nangyayari, bumibili kami for the next full year's worth of MOOE, 1-year services, para buong calendar year sigurado. But historically, we have consumed 93 at saka 97% of all our SUF funds po. Ngayon, taon, again, misleading kasi September na, mababa pa at about 24. But as I've said, we're already procuring this year, mauubos yan for 1 whole year's worth of services. But Mr. Chair, I still want to point out, MOOE yan. Again, para akong nagbabayad ng internet service sa 10,000 sites. Ang kailangan po talaga namin na re-strategize is allow us, number 1, unleash the whole fund so that we can use it for capital outlay to build the infrastructure nang sa ganon, we are not spending 70% on the internet. The internet we will buy from US is at about 9 cents per Mbps. That's how cheap it is. But we do not have a means to let it flow to 10,000 sites. If we build the national broadband, fuse it together with these regional rings, gumagawa tayong national highway and regional rings, ganun kamurang internet ang ipapataloy natin sa buong kapuluan. In fact, that's what we want to prove on September 27. On September 27, once and for all, kung saan man umabot ang national broadband, which is NCR and muna, and then we'll light it up the rest of the year, mararamdaman nyo na ang bilis ng internet na ipapabigay namin sa mga LGUs dito sa NCR. Ba't namin nagagawa yon? Magagawa yon. Kasi mura na lang ang bili namin ng internet. So, we unleash the SUF for us, not just na MOE, we want to build an infrastructure. Madaling magkabit ng free wifi dyan eh. Pero yung internet niyan, binabayad mo sa telco.
Okay. So, Mr. Chair,
gentle reminder lang, Deputy Speaker, you have 1 minute and 20 seconds left.
Tapusay ko na, Mr. Chair. Pero yun nga, ang sabi sa akin, it's because of your disbursement rate. So, walang problema sa kanila in the middle of the year pag maubos nyo yan. So, we just have to talk to DBM about it. Sana maipakita nyo sa kanila yung 97% at saka yung 96% na sinasabi mong disbursement rate. And they committed, Mr. Secretary, Mr. Chair, that they will release as long as you have a program plan na isubmit to unleash that. In terms of the infra, we need to amend the law. Tama ba, Mr. Chair? We need to amend the law.
Yes, Mr. Chair. And we want to make it also a MICA. We need to amend the SUF law, allow us to use it for digital infrastructure, and allow us also a multi-year contractual.
So anyway, Mr. Chair, baka pwedeng isubmit nila sa atin yung mga dapat i-amend na mga suggestion nila for the amendment so we can study it. Although sa bayanihan 3, sinama natin, pero syempre wala pa yung bayanihan 3. So I hope through you, Mr. Chair, isubmit nila sa committee kung anong dapat amendments. And last question na lang, Mr. Chair, bakit 23% lang disbursement rate ng DICT? Why is that?
DICT.
Mr. Chairman, with your permission,
Yes,
Madam
Mr.
Deputy
Secretary.
Speaker, no? Actually hindi ho ito, let me clarify, hindi ho ito sumbong, ano? Lagi hong ginagamit, hindi lamang yung disbursement rate namin, kundi the entire budget utilization rate as an excuse, a reason to peg us down to an unrealistic allocation. Example po, historically, hindi naman ho nakakahiya ang aming sinikap na gawin ever since we take over. No? Ang utilization rate namin noong 2010 when we took over is 89%. Mr. Chair, Madam Deputy Speaker. Noong 2020, 73%. No. Ngayong 2021, August po, nasa 18% pa lang kami. Pero ang projection namin is before December or by December, 93% po kami. Ganun po talaga eh. Sumisipa kami towards the last quarter. But
why is that so? Sorry for interrupting, but why is that so, Mr. Secretary? Kasi we need to understand so that we can tell DBM.
Yes, ma'am.
Why is it in the last quarter kayo sumisipa?
Front-loaded ho kasi, yung paliwanag kanina ni Undersecretary Kaitik, front-loaded for next year. So ang nangyayari po, no, is doon ho kami sa dulo na ma-maximize yung disbursement. Pero ganun pa man po, nag-aapila ho kami sa inyo na kung kinakailangan amyendahin yung batas, pero wag naman ho tingi ang release ng SUF. Dahil kung dahan-dahan, paano kami magdadahan-dahan nationwide? Yun po ang, ang komentaryo naman namin, ma'am, no? Mr. Chair.
Mr. Secretary, I do agree with you completely. And it's on the record sa aking interpellation with DBM, and they committed that every time mauubos nyo ang inyong SUF, they will keep on releasing to you even any time of the year. That's recorded. That's from Yusek Kanda. Kaya pagtulungan na lang po natin, Mr. Secretary. And Mr. Chair, if I can just put on record yung sinasabi ni Mr. Chair dahil front-loaded for next year, kaya nasa last quarter yung pag-release nila. They're just like CHED and DepEd. Kasi ang school year nasa gitna ng taon. So I think that's something that we have to point out. I'm just manifesting that this is something that we should discuss with DBM para hindi nagiging issue yung utilization rate nila, not to give them the proper budget at the proper time. Yun lamang, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much, Mr. Secretary. Asahan niyo po, kakampi niyo po kami dun sa release ng SUF. And please submit to the committee kung ano yung proposed amendments niyo for the SUF law.
We will comply, Mr. Chair. Madam.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. So the department would take note of what the Deputy Speaker Herrera said. I would like to, the Chair would now recognize from the minority, I would like to call Representative Arlene Brosas. Representative Arlene Brosas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can you hear me?
Yes. Please proceed, Representative Brosas.
Yes, maraming salamat po, Mr. Chair. Ilang katanungan sa DICT po. Mr. Chair, as of September 2020, we have 23 independent tower companies, ITCs, na nag-commit to help the DICT achieve its at least 50,000 additional owned. Now, for 2021, additional common towers for the next 7 to 10 years, 70% of which are foreign-owned. For 2021, may nadagdag po ba sa mga companies na ito, Mr. Chair? Ano-ano pong mga companies ito at ilan ang Chinese-owned? At ano pa pong mga bansa ang nagmamay-ari sa companies na ito, Mr. Chair?
Mr. Chair, Madam Congresswoman, may your DICT be allowed to make a written submission because there are, to our mind, some national security implications. Not that we are defensive about this, no? Pero sa amin po, technically, our only intervention through the Common Tower Policy is to make sure that to rationalize the telecom industry. Hindi na ho yung dati na one telecommunications company, one tower. May Common Tower Policy. In fact, last month, I personally inspected one common tower in Valenzuela, Bulacan. The parties involved were there. Iba na ho ngayon ang itsura. I'm not diverting the issue, but iba na ho ang tower ngayon. It's smaller, more compact. You can tear it down in 2 weeks and relocate. It can withstand almost 400 km per hour wins. No? But having said that, with your permission po, Mr. Chairman, no, Madam Congresswoman, may we be allowed to make a written submission to the committee because of I would rather resolve this in favor of public interest and national security by not articulating this in a public hearing. Salamat po.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. The chair takes note of that and directs the Secretariat to accept your submission and furnish the office of Representative Brosas with the same. Thank you. Representative Brosas.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, in the interest of transparency and accountability, kaya po natin tinatanong yung kung ilan na, no? Kung ang tanong nga natin specific is 70% of which are foreign-owned. Yun po ang tinanong natin, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, bakit? Sa tatlong ITCs po na mula sa China na napag-alaman natin, which is the China Construction First Group Corporation, China Construction Yangtze River, SDN-BHD, and China Energy Equipment Company Ltd are owned by the Chinese government. Tama po ba, Mr. Chair, Mr. Secretary?
Mr. Chairman, no, we just want to make sure that we can reconcile through some mechanism that does not jeopardize national security, the data. We are not disputing the data of the Honorable Congresswoman. No? What we're saying is we have our own data also. We just want to make sure na pareho po ito. And I ask permission that we make a written submission para ho walang masabi naman yung mga kababayan natin na if this is correct, if this is accurate, we were not party to breaches in national security because alam niyo po, telecommunications is a strategic industry. And this is beyond your DICT to evaluate this comprehensively at national level. And that we repose that judgment to the wisdom and collective judgment of our Congress.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. For the sake of accuracy of reporting, I think the chair agrees with the secretary that it should be in written form, not verbal, for the sake of accuracy. That's all.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, please.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Kailangan din pong malaman ng publiko kung ano-ano ang mga kumpanya na ito at ang kanilang record, Mr. Chair, di ba? So, kaya ko po nire-raise ito kasi, for example, Mr. Chair, the China Construction First Group Corporation and China Construction Yangtze River, SDN, BHD, are subsidiaries of the China State Construction Engineering Corporation na in 2004 was blacklisted by the DPWH for 6 months because of violation of the procurement law. At noong 2009, it was also blacklisted for 6 years by the World Bank for collusion in the bidding process for the Philippines National Roads Improvement and Management Project. Noong 2018, isa ang China State Construction Engineering Corporation sa mga kumpanya under Bangon Marawi Consortium that were tasked to rehabilitate Marawi after the Marawi siege. 4 years after po, it is still in rehabilitation. So, ganun din po ang tanong namin sa China Energy Equipment Company LTG, subsidiary naman ito ng China CEEC, China Energy Engineering Corporation, na in 2019, for the bidding of the Kaliwa Dam project, COA said in an audit observation memorandum that only the China Energy Engineering Corporation Limited qualified, which is questionable po considering that the two other bidders were disqualified in the first and second stages of the procurement process, no, due to the seemingly intentional purpose of the bidders not to comply with the TWG requirements. Yung mga Chinese companies po na ito, may mga usapin po ng corruption at yung pollution na tinatawag. Mabagal din magtrabaho, and other reports na nagsasabi na low quality materials ang gamit, no? Mr. Chair, bakit po natin pinapayagan na makapasok sa list of ITCs ang subsidiaries nito ng CSCEC at CEEC? Kung noon pa man may mga record na po, napangit yung record. Kaya Mr. Chair, yung sinasabi natin na usapin ito ng national security, baka on the other hand, I agree, no? Baka po pwede pong mag-submit ang Mr. Chair, the ICT ng mga documents na ito para naman makampante ang publiko na hindi naman tayo nako-compromise sa mga ganitong issues, Mr. Chair. And last, Mr. Chair, kaugnay din po ito sa sinasabi ni Mr. Secretary na usapin ng national security. Dito nga po kami kinakabahan, in fact, no? Yung 3,200 towers na planong magawa ng Dito Telco for
Excuse me,
July
Representative
2025.
Rosas, your time is up.
Last na lang, Mr. Chair, baka
Okay.
pwede kong malaman kasi
You have 20 seconds.
Intelligence sa gobyerno. Si automatic na nagbibigay ang Dito Telecom, 40% owned po ito, China Telcom. Automatic silang nagbibigay ng intelligence sa kanilang gobyerno. Ang ayaw po natin, sakaling magkagipitan, Chinese government po yan at kanilang towers yan, source of information, lalo na sa West Philippine Sea. Pwedeng matiktikan o ma-intercept, no? Ano po bang measures ang ginagawa ng DICT dito, Mr. Chair? And lastly, Mr. Chair, baka hindi mo na ako pagsalitain mamaya breakdown na lang at report ng lahat ng towers na naitayo at sino po yung MNO or mobile network operator na nag-collocate dito, Mr. Chair. So yung last tanong na lang po, yung sa Dito Telecom, Mr. Chair. Kasi yun yung paghahandaan ko for plenary, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Representative Rosas. The chair directs the department to make the submissions to satisfy the request of Representative Arlene Rosas. Mr. Secretary.
We will comply, Mr. Chairman.
So the
Your Honor.
Secretariat will receive such and forward the same to the Office of Congresswoman Rosas. Thank you, Mr. Chair, Mr. Secretary. Thank you, Representative Rosas. For the minority, the chair would like to recognize Representative Sara Elago for her questions.
Maraming salamat, Mr. Chair. First, I'd like to ask about the status of implementation of the smart campuses, the utilization of 3 billion pesos to lay the foundation of smart campuses in our state universities and colleges.
The ICT, please answer.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yung Smart Campus na project po ng CHED, natulungan na po namin sila sa paggawa nung parang nagpatulong lang sila dun sa overall map planning that was last year. Pero it is really a CHED project, so maybe we will just take note and then we will ask CHED for an update on that particular IT program of theirs. Sa kanila pong pondo po yun, ma'am. Thank you.
Congresswoman Ilago, are you satisfied with the answer?
Yes, Madam Chair. In fact, we learned from CHED that the funding was already divided into several campuses of select state universities and colleges. Nasa 20 to 25 million lang. Depende po dun sa mga proyekto ng kada SUC. Niraise ko tong question na to, Madam Chair, dahil nitong nakaraan na budget briefing noong 2020, binanggit po ng DICT na meron po silang gampanin pagdating sa pagtitiyak na magiging mabisa ang paggamit ng pondo na ito para palakasin yung ICT infrastructure ng ating state universities and colleges. Ngunit, Madam Chair, na dahil napakaliit po nung pondo na yan, talagang hindi po natin maaasahan na yung inaasam natin na ICT na sapat, no, para matiyak yung digital accessibility, yung pagiging inclusive po ng kasalukuyan na distance education ay sasapat, no, yung pagkaliit-liit na pondo na yan. No, kaya una, Madam Chair, no, nananawagan po ang representasyon na ito ng pagsusumite ng DICT ng detalye ng kanilang naging gampanin dun sa pagbubuo ng mga proposal ng mga SUCs, gayon din yung paggabay, no, sa CHED pagdating sa kung paano ba hahati-hatiin, no, yung mga pondo na yan, no, para po mabisang magamit. No, pangalawa, Madam Chair, magkano pa po ba, no, yung kinakailangan na pondo para masakatuparan ang ating inaasam na hindi lang libreng internet, no, kundi mas ligtas, mas mabilis at mapagkakatiwalaan na internet, no, sa lahat po ng ating public schools, universities, and colleges sa buong bansa. Yan po ang hihingin, no, ng representasyon na ito mula sa kabataan bilang paghanda, no, para po sa plenary deliberation ng pondo ng DICT, no, para sa 2022 budget. May we get the commitment, no, from DICT?
DICT, can you please answer?
Madam Chair, Mr. Chairman, Your Honor, we give you that commitment. No? But again, may I add, before I ask Undersecretary Kaintik to make additional comments, that that is beyond the mandate of your DICT. Kami po ay Technical Support Department. We have limited regulatory functions, but determining our national priorities, connecting our classrooms, our students, is a matter for Congress to, in its collective wisdom and judgment, to address through legislation or maybe recommendations for executive action at different levels. That would be our comment, Mr. Chairman.
Representative Ilago.
We understand, Mr. Chair, no, but what we're asking is just the technical role. No? What's the role, no, of the DICT, no, in all of this? No? Kasi yun din po sabi sa atin ng CHED, natutulungan sila ng DICT. No? Kaya yun naman po yung gusto natin naman marinig, no, sa DICT. At yun din po yung inaasahan natin na masumite. No? Kung ano lang po yung within, no, dun sa inyong function, dun po sa paggampan ng inyong mandato, ang ninanais po natin na masumite sa Committee on Appropriations.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We take note. I remember specifically your question last year, ma'am. In fact, last year, the CHED Central Office committed to making sure that all the SUCs abide to a certain kind of framework na dito nyo gamitin yung 25 to 30 million. Maliit siya if they're not gonna spend it on the right things. So example, sabi namin, wag nyo nang gastusan ng internet itself. Kami na magpapaulan ng internet sa inyo. Ang kailangan yung gawin, yung network sa loob ng school. So tama po kayo, Mr. Chair, ma'am. Itatanungin namin ang CHED kung nasunod ba yung mga paggamit sa 25 to 30. But again, Mr. Chair, this will have to be a collaborative effort with the SUCs to their central office to us po.
Mr. Chairman, may I add what I think is an important point also from your DICT's view, no?
Yes, Mr. Secretary.
I agree with Congresswoman Elagos' point, no? Kaya lang po, kuminsan, baka nadadivert yung attention natin dun sa quantitative aspect. Tinatanong natin, ilan ba dyan ang access points, ilan na ang na-distribute natin in terms of connectivity. Ang ibig ho namin bigyan ng diin din, ma'am, with your permission, Mr. Chair, is yung content. Aside from developing these connectivity systems, what do we teach our most precious, strategic, and renewable resource, our next generation of citizens and leaders? That would be, I guess, a parallel effort that will allow us to comprehensively address the issues that are being faced now by our educational system. But again, Mr. Chair, Madam Congresswoman Ilago, we will make these submissions in a more comprehensive manner para mas detalyado po, and you will get a better idea of your DICT's technical intervention.
Representative Ilago?
Maraming salamat, Mr. Chair, and we welcome the commitment of the DICT to submit to the Committee on Appropriations the requested documents of this youth representation. Now, Mr. Chair, kanina po na-raise na rin ng ating representasyon mula sa mga kaguruan yung hinggil naman sa mga pangangailangan para dun sa ligtas na pagbabalik eskwela ngayong academic year. Ito, Mr. Chair, ang pinapanawagan po kasi ng mga kabataan ay magkaroon na ng phased at voluntary na reopening ng schools, beginning on low-risk areas. Ibig sabihin po, dun sa mga areas na natiyak na natin na nandyan yung mga prevention at mitigation strategies in place para ligtas na makabalik sa mga campuses ang mga mag-aaral at ang mga estudyante na napakalimitado, kulang na kulang, kapos na kapos, o wala po talagang access sa internet para sa distance education, ay may ganun na silang option, yung limited face-to-face at yung physical return sa mga classroom. Na habang itinutulak po natin yung phased at voluntary reopening of schools, meron pa rin pong mananatiling aasa doon sa ICT support, a communication subsidy, internet allowance. Kaya napakahalaga po nung mga nauna nang nahinging dokumento ng ating mga kasamahan tungkol dun sa pakikipagtulungan naman sa DepEd o mga updates po na education related para mapataas po yung accessibility, availability, and quality na internet service ay pag-aaralan din po ng representasyon na ito. At huli, ang isa po sa mga usapin na dinala namin sa harap ng DOST ay yung usapin po na tungkol doon sa findings ng isang non-profit organization na tinatawag na Curio Media, Mr. Chair. They released a report. Now, you're familiar with this report po. It's a report about the recent distributed denial of service attacks on alternative media outlets and websites of human rights defenders groups. Katulad po ng Alter Media ng Karapatan between the months of May and June this year. Mr. Chair, this report claims to have found links to the Department of Science and Technology and the military. Ngayon, ang sagot po sa amin ng DOST, Mr. Chair, ay tanungin daw po namin sa DICT kung kamusta na po yung investigation tungkol dito sa distributed denial of service attacks sa mga alternative media outlets. Ito po ay nakuha natin sa mga reports ng June 2021. At nung nagpunta po dito ang DOST nitong nakaraang linggo, ang sinabi po nila sa atin, sa DICT na lang itanong kung kamusta na ba ang investigasyon. Kung meron na bang napanagot, meron na bang kakasuhan, meron na ba kayong pinatawag hinggil po dito sa investigation na ito?
Mr. Chairman, the investigations, because of the seriousness of the matter, is ongoing. And we expect to submit a terminal report not only by itself as the ICT, but in coordination with the other agencies that are involved. Dahil ito ho talaga this is crucial. If there is already unwarranted intervention in our educational system, yung pagkasabi nga ho ni Congresswoman Ilago, denial of access to alternative learning systems, the entire ecosystem is in jeopardy. And I think this will require really a lot of coordination, convergence, and private-public partnership. So again, when the report is finalized, we will submit also to the committee an update, a current status report, and of course, ultimately a terminal report on the results of this investigation.
The chair would like to ask the secretary if how soon you can furnish the committee with an update so that we may satisfy Representative Elago's query.
Mr. Chairman, today is Friday.
Opo.
We will abide by the instructions of the committee. Can we do this first day of the week, next week? An update, if that is all that is required of the DICT.
An update by next week would suffice.
Opo.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary.
Mr. Chair, just a final request related to this issue. We'd also like to be included in the report information about the email and IP address as mentioned in the Curio Media findings. Because initially, Mr. Chair, these details of email addresses and IP addresses were found to have links to the Office of the Assistant Chief of Staff for Intelligence of the Philippine Army. Kaya yung confirmation or whatever initial findings na meron ang DICT na hindi naman makaka-compromise dun sa buong ginagawa niyong investigation ay nararapat lamang na mabigay na dito sa komite at mabigyan po tayo ng sagot hinggil sa matagal ng katanungan na ito. June 2021 pa ito nangyari, Mr. Chair, at hanggang ngayon, wala pa rin pong nakukuha na kahit anong update ang mga nag-request ng investigation. Kaya, ang kahilingan po natin, hindi lang ma-update ang committee na to, kundi yung mas mabilis po sana na takbo ng investigation. Maraming salamat, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Secretary.
In this regard, since it infringes on what is partly a technical function of your DICT, saklaw na po ito ng cybersecurity. We are religious in submitting reports directly to the Office of the President. So we would like, maybe in executive session or on some other occasion, to ask advice from Congress on how we should handle this so that we will not precipitate again a tension or conflict between what I regard from a previous lifetime as my chain of command. I am duty-bound to submit all my reports related especially to cybersecurity, which impacts on national security, to the Office of the President. And in that regard, we would like to seek your advice on how to handle this para we will view this in the proper perspective. With all due respect to the issues that were raised by Congresswoman Elago.
Well, the chair understands where the Honorable Elago is coming from. The chair also recognizes the position and quandary that the department faces with regards to the submissions. Because issues pertaining to national security should not be discussed in open hearing or no open session. So I think we should take this up at another forum, Representative Elago.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Tungkol po kasi ito sa denial of access sa mga napakahalaga na mga sites ng human rights defenders groups at gayon din mga alternative media outlets na nakakaapekto din sa karapatan sa impormasyon ng ating mga kababayan. At ang dagdag pa na issue dito, yung matagal na po nating pinapaimbestigahan dito sa Kongreso na kung ginagamit ba, yung sagot sa katanungan na kung ginagamit ba yung pondo ng bayan para po sa ganitong tipo ng mga atake at mga troll farms na matagal na po nating pinapaimbestigahan. Kaya, again, we'll appreciate our written response and explanation from the DICT regarding this matter. Maraming salamat, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Representative Elago. The DICT will, to its best, answer Representative Elago's query without compromising the interest of national security. Is there anything else, Representative Elago?
That would be all for now, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Representative Elago.
Sir Chair, may I be
Yes,
recognized?
Congresswoman Baronda.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair, and Congresswoman Alago, to Secretary Gingo Hanasan, and the rest of the ICT family. For almost 3 years, I've been helping the chairman with our budget hearing. Last year, I understand, humingi kayo ng 24 million. Binigyan kayo ng 8 billion, 24 billion, binigyan kayo ng 8 billion. Ngayon, humingi naman kayo ng 34 billion, binigyan kayo ng 9 billion. Sobrang napakalaki ang difference ng hinihingi nyo. I cannot imagine kung paano gagawin with utmost dedication dahil marami kayong plano. Paano nyo magagawa ito lahat? We understand na yung DICT hindi lang limited sa connection, sa internet connection. Sinabi nga ni Secretary Hunasan na liberty and property. Mahirap. Panahon ng pandemya, kailangan natin mag-step up. Kailangan natin na naasahan tayo ng mga kababayan natin na we have to face this new normal. Sa lahat ng ahensya ng gobyerno, nakikita ko na kailangan natin yung DICT para at least mapagtapi-tapi lahat ng programa, lahat ng mga plano. At nung una ko nakita na nag-step up po kayo nung time na yung nagbigay kayo ng red ID, diba, kung saan lahat ng mga offices kailangan na pumunta, yung mobility nila from other parts of the country, makikita ko yun. So despite the limited resources, at least you were able to deliver even hindi lang yung so much expectations ng tao. But at least with that, thank you so much for all your efforts. Thank you also for helping, for being responsive to the needs of District Secretary and to all the ICT family. With that, Mr. Chair, kailangan po natin siguro i-maximize ang utilization of the government's resources to the department by giving them enough at a doable level to undertake the comprehensive digitalization program or plan of the ICT para sa bansa natin. Doable lang sinabi ko, Mr. Chair, kasi alam naman natin hindi kaya. So with that, Mr. Chair, I move to manifest na sana kasama natin madagdagan yung pondo ng DICT to be able to adjust to this new normal. Thank you so much po. Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. Congratulations again.
Dadagdagan ko na rin yung sinabi ni Congresswoman Baronda. This is the third year that I will be sponsoring the budget of DICT. And it's been a constant source of frustration na hindi natin magawa kung ano yung mandated na gagawin natin, yung digital backbone, all that, because of the obvious lack of financial capacity. So I think it should be, we'll have to really work together in order to have a budget which is doable and workable so that we can make demands which can be realistically met by the agency. So with that,
Sir Chair, I think wala na po tayong interpellators. With that, I would like to move for the termination of today's briefing. So move, Mr. Chair.
do I hear a second?
Second motion, Mr. Chair.
With that, hearing no objection, I terminate today's budget hearing of the DICT. Hindi, ano, given